Hello again. Time for another round robin campaign diary sum up. It's been a little while since one. I'll do my best to recall everything that's gone on, but a lot has happened since I've last made one of these several weeks ago. The most notable development has been Brandon's DMing has sort of given me room to sort of relax, step back, and work on the back end of things, sort of focus on life, work, that kind of stuff. So I have DM'd here and there, and I have some stories of things to tell. But mostly, I've been helping Brandon learn everything that he wants to know to DM. So I've got a little bit about that there. What I have DM'd has been very interesting. Right after the last campaign diary, we had a few interesting things, sort of back to back. The one I can recall most clearly being the journey to the genie's lamp. So, a party of Ligart, Lisone, Reginald, and Ulf decided to make their way to the genie's lamp to try and find it. So, when they set out to seek the genie's lamp, I was using the old D12 system. Things that me and Brandon have been doing is reworking the D12 into something different. So, on the old D12 system, I had them roll what they usually roll for their encounter type, or what encounter, or if they get encounter at all, or the difficulty encounter. And the lower the dice, the worse the encounter, or at least the harder the encounter. So what they happened to get was a reasonable fight. So it wound up being a hobgoblin, bugbear, three goblins, and I realized that I really didn't need to throw it at them. I think at the time when I thought they had rolled something, they actually had wound up rolling something other than what I thought they had. So I didn't actually need to put them against that group of a scout, a hobgoblin commander. I think hobgoblin commander. It was just regular hobgoblin, and a bugbear. And so it's just the um. So I actually role played the goblinoids, sort of coming through having no desire to fight and just announcing their presence and basically telling the adventurers to sort of give them some room, steer clear. So, being that some of the adventurers did speak Goblin, namely that information was relayed. At one point, I remember the goblins did sort of say that it's good that the inferior creatures let them pass by, and they kept that information from Sir Reginald, with stabbing them immediately. But he did later on get a chance to do just that. Along the way, they stopped by at the Wizard's Tower, and they made a check. And someone did something that nobody had done at the Wizard's Tower before, and that was detect magic. And I was like, I should put something there. That seems like it'd be a good idea. So I thought, what can I put on the first floor, this first library floor of the Wizard's Tower? That would be an interesting, believable magic item that wouldn't break the. I thought it might be. I rolled on the DM narration tables, and one of the things that came up was a painting. Garden. So when he used detect magic, I told him there's a painting on it. So he went to investigate it and check. And I told him, it seems that it's not the wooden frame, it's the canvas underneath it attached to it. It seems to be magical. So somewhere in the process there, I don't know if I guided him to it or not, but he did decide to go ahead and take the canvas out of the frame, and decide to take it to Magi Amberhand to get identified after their adventure. Later on, when he did decide to get identified, he did find out that it was sort of a camera. Basically, if he held it up, to a scene or something that he wanted to commemorate, he could say the command word, and it would take a picture of it. Basically, it would etch that into the canvas. So I told him the command word was click, but players kind of they had at the end of this session. It's been a very funny session. The whole they were sort of rolling with the good times, and they actually wanted to make it the command word cheese. So Brandon offered to burn one of his inspiration points to change it to cheese, and I thought that's the perfect kind of thing to do. If everybody liked it, and it seems great to me, so we changed it to cheese. Getting back to chronologically, after they leave the Wizard's Tower, before all this stuff was identified. They did have another encounter with the goblins, but not before they started making their path to the genie's land. Using the wizard's tower as their sort of midway point towards navigating towards the genie's lamp, I had everybody roll a skill challenge, which I realized at that point I hadn't used it in a while and stopped using it for just every session it spices up travel, and instead use it for something special. So I figured this was special to use it for. So I had everyone roll a check and hit some pretty interesting results. Of course, Sir Reginald did survival so that he could navigate the way through. But so I narrated it was pretty good. So I told him that he got the ability when he would see a side path, he would know that wasn't the right one. And he would identify it as a game trail. He would identify it as another walk. He sort of would pick off these things and decide that they were going the right way. Ligard, for his part, wanted to be useful in clearing the way there. So he used his athletics and started pushing, breaking brush and cleaning things out of the way, and they started breaking down a path. Ulv wanted to use stealth, so Ulv sort of is the scout forward and scout backward, checking the front, checking the back, and clearing it out a couple times. It's to hold the party so that a wild animal like a black bear can go by, and without disturbing it or having it cause them time. So it actually speeds up their travel a little bit. All these different things. It's one of the things I felt was feasible from them rolling these checks and narrating them into them the way they were. It would speed up their travel, it would help them get there faster, which played into what happened next. Now, the last person was Lisson, who wanted to use history. So we figured out together that he could use history to, things. He's a researcher. He has a sage background, so he's very much interested in seeking of knowledge. So we decided that he could have researched some things, found out some things about the genie, and so I narrated some things about how the genie, it only appears to people in the daytime, looks for people who are worthy of its power. It seeks very much a sort of a moral worthiness. It has a very peculiar sense of what is worthy. So with those things in mind, I had the hobgoblin group with the goblin scouts and the bugbear come up behind them as if following on their path. But they had followed them, they'd come up on before them, traveling about the same way. They had let them pass, and then they'd gone their own way. In between, leaving Trenwell and getting to the Wizard's Tower, and in between leaving the Wizard's Tower and getting to this point, they apparently have sped up enough so they've gotten ahead, and these goblins are now following them in their path. Because all this stealthing backward and forward, he knows that that's where they are. So he's able to suss out that they're there, and so they sort of get a drop on them. They decided to lay in ambush and lay in wait. Now, previously, when they had tried this, Sir Reginald failed his spell check, and all the goblins were aware of him, and I narrated that. This time, everyone succeeded, and they got to do an ambush. So, Sir Reginald ambush, sneak attack, got this hobgoblin first in the kidney. That's his signature move, is stabbing them in the kidneys. It was a critical hit. It did kill them and kill the hobgoblin in one blow. Really enjoyed that. The rest of them easily took down the bugbear and the 3 goblin scouts. One interesting encounter was that Lucien was figuring out how Burning Hands works, and Burning Hands is a cone effect. So we figured out that what a cone is it's if a cone is this one is 15 feet. If a cone is 15 feet, it's going to go out 15 feet. At its tip, it's going to be 15. So it sort of makes a cone in shape in that direction. And since it's a cone, it's also going to do it vertically as well as horizontally. So 15 feet up in the trees, fire, and one of the things about Burning Hands is it catches fire to anything that's flammable in its area. It does, they're in a forest. So I had them roll a d6 to tell me how many there were. I got a bit of inspiration this session as they're doing that. When they started looking for loot, I decided to pull up Don John and website Don John and just use their treasure generator for the challenge ratings of these particular creatures, and had them roll a d10 for it because it lists 10 results. Had them roll a d10 for it. That seemed to be a much more player-involved way of rolling for loot. Put a little less stress on me of figuring out the math, slows the game down less, and just makes the game more interactive for the players and their dice, which wound up being a very good move. Something that I think we're keeping long run in Fontera. Having dealt with them, they decided to take a short rest. We took a quick break, as we normally do when players take a short rest. It becomes a good opportunity for a quick real-life break. Bathroom break, snack break, whatever have you. Usually it's a bathroom break. When they resume travel, they get on their way. They've basically done everything that they could have done for the day. They've had a combat. They've had a combat. They've done their skill challenge. They've narrowed the thing. They've stopped by something else and something for it. They've kind of done what they was set out to do. So, there was nothing really else for them but to get there. So once they finally got there, then the fun started. So I started narrating for them how they enter this thing. One of the first things that came up on the DM narration table was something kind of interesting. I was looking for what kind of door it would be. I narrated it was in a hobbit hole and a hobbit hill, and it's a pretty normal rectangular door. It has some hieroglyphs etched into it that glow whenever the players approach. So I had them roll an intelligence save, about 15 I think was the, and on a fail, it will sort of tell them that there's nothing nearby, that it's fruitless to go any further, that there's nothing here. It's sort of like the first line of defense of this genie, so that no one gets to it too easily. It sort of dissuades random people who aren't too intent on seeking it out, away from other directions. But Ligart was the one doing this, and he did succeed the saving throw very handily. So I narrated that he felt that effect dissuading him, but then he overcame it quickly, realizing it's an outside force. So the others, they come in. The first room is a chasm room. Now I decided very on, even though it was a chasm here, I didn't want it to be a literal chasm. It looks like a chasm, and I figured I wanted there to be an invisible magical floor, sort of protecting it. Because I didn't want there to be any overt danger in the genie's lair, just that there might be the appearance of it, and there might be a bit of puzzles and exploration to do. So there's a magical floor over this rickety bridge over this chasm. It looks like it's going to break at any time. And they respected it very much. They took it one at a time. Heaviest person last, and everybody took all the precautions. One person did decide to check it, and that was Lisson. Lisson did decide to check it out, I think, a pebble or something thick. I told him he drops it, and you see it drops at floor level. It drops on level with you. So he was the one person who discovered that that's a fake floor. It's a visible magic floor. Next room, there was, sure, Sir Reginald forges ahead while some of the others are coming up. So there's I narrated for him on roll on the table, and it came up I narrated for him that there's some mist, some low mist, in this next hallway that leads down, obscuring what's forward. So if you go forward for a little while, you see two braziers of lights at the hallway, one on either side of the door. So Reginald, everyone catches up by this point, and they enter this room with three doors. And so over each door, there was another inscription of hieroglyphs. And so I narrated for them that the first door has a hieroglyph of a person, a bowl of food, and a sun. The second door has a hieroglyph of a person, a bowl of food, and moon. Finally, the third hieroglyph has a bowl of food, the sun, and then the person. And I did everything short of telling them. That they have to make sort of a moral choice what these priorities are. So I told each person something I thought would help them based on what they would intuit or have learned. The Psalm with his research, Old with his instinct, the art with that type of stuff, so that everyone would have something to go on for this puzzle. They stood puzzling it out for a good 30 minutes or so. And I just sort of let them do it. I think that's the right thing to do when you have a puzzle in front of the players. You don't act like the solution's so easy. They're taking it seriously, engaging with it. And play it out. Give them hints. Try and lure them to maybe the answer you want them to get, or just to get to one. In this particular case, I didn't have any particular meaning I really wanted it to mean. I wanted it to be up to the player's interpretation of what that choice would mean, what that moral choice, priority choice would really turn up to, as they ascribe the symbol's meaning. Ultimately, I think they figured that, putting the other people before a person, before eating, and a moon symbol, crescent moon symbol, they kind of figured that was the right thing to do, is putting others before yourself, before you took care of your own needs. I thought that was a reasonable interpretation, so they convinced me. When they tried the third door, which was the food, then the sun, and the person, I had, Sir Reginald had it lead down for a little while, and then he realizes he's coming up into the same room he just left with the backs of all his friends. So they decided to check the second door. in the time that they've done this, I've already figured out what the next room is going to be, and I figure there's three obstacles, and that's enough. You got the chasm. You've got the three doors, and then now I've got this last thing. This last thing, once they've chosen the middle door, this last thing is a pool room. 40-foot cube. It's actually an 80-foot tall rectangular prism, but it looks like a 40-foot cube because the floor is the level floor is level with water. So it appears that it's a pool of water, and when they eventually investigate, they see a cylindrical, thing sticking out of the bottom of the room. It's a cork. So Sir Reginald pulls it. He swims down to this water slide, and everyone follows suit, and they proceed on. And so I narrate how they, slide, slips, spin, curves around into a helix, and then dumps them into this pit, ball pit of these white globes that, when the water hits them, it starts absorbing them, turning them translucent. We can see the water inside them. The water globes, like swimming through a ball. And so they have a good time with that. And so the next thing on the narration table for sites is stairs. So our narrative that they were probably the large stairs. I figured just pretty imposing in terms of scale and size. So the next thing was 3-foot deep and 3-foot tall steps leading. I intended them to lead downwards, but they thought it led upwards, and I thought it's the same thing either way. It makes a little bit more sense if they have to climb up the stairs. They don't have visibility on what's next, so I just let it go. Do they interpret it that way? We'll make that the right interpretation. Why not? It doesn't make any difference to my game, or I'm running for them. Make it happen. So that's what it was. So they worked together to climb. It wasn't terribly hard. They didn't have to make any checks or anything. And finally come face to face with Genie Gamor. Genie's name was generated on the spot with the name generator. I pulled up Genie page on the Forgotten Realms wiki and used that to help me narrate what this genie looked like. It's not your Aladdin genie. It's a bald guy, buff. He's got gold. He's got like a gold mohawk ear, gold earrings, gold pauldrons, and gold bracers, on his arm there. And it holds a golden scepter. Has like an ethereal, tornado-like bottom, spinning around, and a sort of a muscular, broad-shouldered top coming out of the lamp, and had him speak with a thundering voice, speaking somewhat slow and enunciating. And the players really liked interacting with him. So Reginald decided that getting to meet a genie was a fulfillment of wish enough for him. Ligart surprised me, and this is where I found out something about myself as DM. As DM, don't like surprises. Ligart surprised me. He had been planning something. He wanted to spring it on me. And so what he decided he wanted to do was have Ligart wish for all the members of the original Honor of a Fighters Club who had died to be brought back to life as if they had never died. It was a very specific wish. And I thought, wow, I wish I'd had a moment to think about what that was going to be and how I would answer that. But I didn't. I didn't think on my feet. Stalled a little bit through narration through dialogue before I gave him my answer. And I didn't want to say no flat out. I thought it was a fine wish. It was a worthy wish. We had a bit of build up in the dialogue beforehand about, it's I'm not worthy of this wish, and having Gamora say, "I'll decide what is worthy. This is my privilege as the genie." So I felt it was a worthy wish, like we talked about in the dialogue. I didn't want to say no to it, but at the same time, that was something I wasn't prepared for story-wise. Didn't know if it had a satisfying way for that to go in the narrative. So I decided to tell Ligart that it was possible for that to happen, but that he would have to deal with the consequences, the unforeseen consequences of his wish, and that he might not like those. That seemed to be enough for him to reconsider. He gave the others a chance to go while he thought about changing his wish. He had a decision to make, so give him some time. Blisson and Ove, for their parts, wanted more simple wishes. Blisson wanted to wish for something, but didn't know what. I suggested, I try to go with some options. I feel like with Blisson being a new player, giving him some options might help. And so the first, we're talking about magic items, and the first thing that popped into his mind was a magic ring. I told him there's several different kinds of magic rings. There's rings of see, there's rings of invisible, there's all sorts of cool rings of magic that he used, and he decided he wanted to ring up his ring of protection. Easy enough. Perfect thing for a genie to do. It's an easy job. All this time I had played this genie like he was, millennia or just weeks to him. He doesn't have to care for how how long it is. He's sort of trying to get away from civilization. He's a nice 200 years, which for him was like a weekend. Now people are bothering him again and asking him for stuff. So that was kind of fun. So he simple enough request for the genie to grant, and grant it and send them on their way. Ove also wanted to wish for a magic item. I suggested that he could wish for a +1 bow. I even wanted to flavor it so that he would pull the string and a magical arrow would form on the string pull as he pulled it, and that the arrow would do arrows magical arrows fire would do magical damage instead of piercing. It'd be +1, so also get the damage and the attack rolls bonus, and it would do magical damage. It was a pretty good thing for my wish. He decided to look something up and he found something he liked, and it seemed fine to me, so I told him yes. A whisper bow, another thing a genie would be happy to grant. By this time, Ligard's had time to think about what he wants, and he decides to change his wish. Ligard now asks Skimor to make him a half elf, let him keep all of his basically stats bonuses that he got from being a dragonborn, become a half elf, and he's willing to give up the breath weapon and the resistance of being a dragonborn. And we talked it out, between player and DM, and decided that that was reasonable and wasn't overpowered or broken. We decided to let that happen. So Ligard becomes a half elf. Lyric is, I think, along for this. Maybe not. I don't know if Lyric was here. Lyric was there. Didn't talk or do a lot, but was there for that. So Lyric was there to see that happen, and there was a bit of interesting little role play there. That was basically the session between burning hands, catching 2 trees on fire, making, causing the players to make lots of jokes about burning the whole forest down as a way of getting where they're going, making it easy to navigate around, which certainly would be effective, but probably kind of sucked narratively speaking. They got a good kick out of that. Between references to Aladdin talking to the genie, Sir Reginald actually made a reference saying that he would show the genie a whole new world. He was trying to get the genie to try adventuring, but the genie's sort of down for relaxing and things, taking a vacation, he calls it. So I decided that the genie probably wouldn't be down for such things, but Sir Reginald was trying to convince him, saying he could show him a whole new world. And I thought, you're talking to a genie, telling him you'll show him a whole new world. I decided to respond with the next lyrics to that song in Aladdin. And Sir Reginald picked back up on it, so we had a little stanza there. So between that and all these things, finally, between those things and the camera vest magic item, it wound up being a pretty hilarious session. The players all had a grand old time. They all loved it. It was Sir Reginald's first time back ever since he'd been away for taking care of his schooling. It was a fine adventure to a place no one had been yet. Everyone really seemed to enjoy it, which made me happy. I was glad that everyone had a good time. Very, very easy to run once I sort of got in the mode. One of the next interesting things that happened, besides hunting some char goblins, was Shannon and Sai Corva take along some of the level 1 characters, Drogon and Mars, and head out. They're actually hunting for the cockatrice. I think this was Sai's idea. And they head out searching for the cockatrice den. And I talked with Brandon about, regular cockatrices, giant cockatrices. For this party, regular cockatrices would probably be a huge letdown. So I decided to use regular cockatrices as babies, giant cockatrice as a mama. So of course, they take care of the babies easily, but then the mama comes along, start to get a little dicey, get a little bit scared as I narrate, the telegraphing of attack. But overall, they're victorious. It was a pretty interesting session, I think. I felt glad that I could narrate in terms of combat, the baby cockatrices in an interesting way. One brave but foolhardy one, reserved and skittish one, and one who's rather stupid. And the players seem to get a kick out of that. There being some variety with those. Some of the babies got killed, but the stupid one survived. Um, and the mama, well, at least for a while, and the mama tried to protect it. But they did manage to kill the mama pretty well. Shannon and Bastet, pretty nice combo between Shannon's inflict wounds at second level, and Bastet making a leaping pounce attack because Bastet can leap over Shannon. It's pretty clear cut rules as for what Bastet can jump over 5 feet. Shannon's about 5. Bastet can jump over Shannon and make this pounce attack hit. It didn't really change much anyway. It could have come from the direction done the same anyway. The jumping thing was just cool flavor, and that did get the killing blow. Shannon was happy to have gotten the killing blow on yet another large creature. Sort of become Shannon's signature thing. So they start, looting things. Torva tries to find the den where there's a skeleton and some loot. And so the money that rolled off of that, I had them roll for money that came off of that. I figured there had to be some way. Cockatrice probably isn't going to split open and have gold come out of his stomach. That might be interesting, possible future point. But the cockatrice probably wasn't going to have something like that spill out of its gut. So instead, I figured there would be a cockatrice den, and Torv was looking for that anyway. So there. So there's a cockatrice den that Torva finds with rusted, chainmail, broken longsword, and skeleton with a pouch with some small amount of gold on it, 19, based on what he rolled on the D10 there. He seemed, pretty satisfied with that. I was too. The only hitch in the whole night came up when at the end, Shannon sort of tries to hide something from the players. We did decide to implement the ability in that session for people to bring back the heads of prayer animals. I thought this cockatrice was the perfect thing to introduce that for. So I did have everybody roll a check. Shannon was the only one who did. And so I sort of put myself in a corner there. My mistake. Get mad at Shannon. Really, it was my mistake. So kind of let that one die. Just got the information to the party the other way, and that there's a bounty for the head of a giant cockatrice. They decide to go ahead and take that bounty and up between up to this, interested hunter wants this as a trophy. They got a good loot for it. There's 5 of them. It's 550 gold. They're each gonna haul for it. Overall, I felt pretty satisfied with it. We'll have to have more monster type thing. They did like that monster hunter element too. Something interesting happened, where players got their sibling into the game. So Shannon's player Caitlin has a sister Brenna. I've DM'd for Brenna and Caitlin before. Brenna's one of the players in my main storyline campaign that was on a long hiatus and only recently got restarted, but that's a different campaign diary. And so I was familiar, and so we got to talking, and Caitlin had been talking to Fontera, and Brenna had expressed an interest in playing with Caitlin, which meant making a character, getting her into Fontera. So I gained a player out of it, a player. So she rolled up. I was really excited about this character. It was a really cool character we thought of. She wanted to play a paladin. It's PHP only, so we think, oh, what could be a paladin? Well, Oath of Ancients paladins are PHP. It could be a dex build, dual wielder with the free feat. You could go variant human to get a second feat. So all that stacked up to be a pretty interesting character. We built her so that she could take armor that would let her take advantage of a high dex, and got her started in the way of being a paladin. And it was overall a very interesting character, because not only could we do that, we could give her paladin a deity that would give her a hook into Fontera, paladin of Gaia, the Earth Mother. Gaia has called her paladin here to Fontera to slay the Shar goblins who are plaguing the place, and rid the place of the elementals. So we have that going on. which is very, very cool. I'm very excited. At that point, I'm very excited about the player and the character, and having such a cool character with a cool hook into Fontera works so perfectly into what we're trying to do. So we get Nira Vellenmore, bring his character into a solo session, get her introduced into Fontera and some of the NPCs, and she does a really brilliant write up. I absolutely loved it. I gave her some homework, which was to figure out her holy symbol to to obtain it. Basically, now that she hit level 2 at the end of her solo session, so she gets a pretty good thing doing there, and she did it. It was really cool. I'd forgotten I'd asked her to do that, but she did it. It was really cool. Um, it was a pretty interesting session. Now this is sort of a picking up halfway session. So um, it starts off hunting some Shar goblins. Torva, Shannon, Ligart, Luther, and Neves. Now Neves is a real life friend of Torva, so Torva's brought Neves to the game. I think that's right. I'm starting to forget who's who a little bit, but people are bringing people to the game. At this point, people are bringing other people to the game. Siblings, friends, other players in their other game. Any of the people are bringing people to the game. Word of mouth is spreading, and Fontera is growing. Not everyone stays, but the more people that we get, the more people long term that we bring in to stay long term. So we're sort of still coming out ahead, coming out even, however you want to put it, in terms of growing our cast of players. So there's an interesting thing going on, and Brandon's sort of written up a little bit of a bit of an interesting encounter system that we can use for this particular goblin hunt. So first, it's some goblins roasting a boar over a campfire because they ask them what time of day they're going to do this. They decided at night. What I wanted them to say, so we could have this. They're singing shanties over a campfire, roasting a boar. It's the end of the day meal. They're doing this by cover of night, which is very cool. Using Torva's primeval awareness to sort of seek them out, feel them out. So the first half of this session comes when they're getting the they're getting um, getting some progress there. They do try a little bit of diplomacy there. They do take one of the goblins captive, but they do enough damage to these goblins that Luther's idea is to cut its tongue out so it can't yell for help when one of the other players bring up that it could yell for help. And so it was at 1 HP, and so I just said, yeah, that puts it over the edge and it loses consciousness. Basically, basically his plan didn't work, but it was based on what did the group believe would happen, what do the players think could happen or would happen, it was likely to be realistic. So I felt pretty good about that. They do find out where the Shar goblins are, which is kind of pointless because Torva's thing could do that anyway. And I started to sense that maybe things need to stress the collaborative aspect of Fontera a little bit more. Players are working individually instead of as a team. So it was kind of a moot point, right? You didn't have to interrogate the goblin if Torva knows where the goblins are via his primeval awareness. But the other players don't think about that because they're not Torva's player. It's just kind of interesting how they're not working together. We sort of helped rectify that a little bit, which I'm very proud of. In the follow-up session to that, when Nira gets to join the rest of the party. When Nira gets to join the rest of the party, we have a session where we've got Torva, Neves, Luther, Shannon, Nira, Lighart bowed out. Merrick? He might have bowed out. Make room for Nira at this. Yeah, it was Merrick, and he bowed out to make room. Because he felt like 7 was too large of a party size. So he bowed out for Nira to enter. So Merrick left, Nira enters, so it's Shannon and Nira, Torva and Neves, Luther, and yeah, it's the 5 of them, and they're approaching this goblin camp. Now I didn't realize this, but the players don't have a lot of time. Now the session's gotten delayed because I was late getting off work, late getting home, getting ready, getting established. This is when I started to get a little burned out on DMing And what happened in the end of the session sort of drilled that into me. So I took about a week off. And what happened was this. So at the start of this session, I encouraged Luther to earn an extra reward, and I tell him I'll give him 2 SOIs for his write-up if he will focus on um, taking note of what other people are doing so that he can work with them to get more out of the game from a collaborative perspective. And I reasoned it to him like this. If you approach the game from only what you can do, you only get out of it what you are capable of getting. If you approach it from a group aspect, a team aspect, you get out of it what everyone can contribute, which is much, much more. You get out of it what everyone can. So he seemed to really buy into that. He also liked the hook to, if he did the write up that way and paid attention to and that stuff, that I would give him 2 SOIs for that write up, which we did, and it worked very well. He did a write up summarizing what they were doing. On the way there, I didn't want it to make it go too fast. On the way there, I gave them a hippogriff nest for them to come across. They liked that, but but I got a message from Torva that they had to leave soon and that they wanted to wrap it up. It wasn't enough time for me. They told me they had 45 minutes, and I wished I'd known that at the start of the session or from planning the session, instead of them springing it on me. I don't know if they thought it would take less time than it does. Maybe they're just not thinking stuff takes more time than it does. In any case, that slight delay was enough to sort of cause a problem, and that's why they. Nevertheless, it was a good part narratively speaking because it introduced more things into Fontera instead of getting only one thing out of it. It introduced, now people want to go out and tame the hippogriffs to use as pets or whatever, and that's perfectly fine with me. They can do whatever they want with those, trying to do things. Whether they succeed or not, it's a different story, and we'll work that out with the dice and roleplay and such. But we'll work that out. But for now, they're going to a thing, and I prompt them. This is where I found out prompts work really well from a storytelling perspective in a team game. I prompted them for a skill challenge, and the prompt was, plan your assault on this base. You already know where it is and where you're going. Figure out how you're going to use your skills to assault it. It did take a little bit of time, but I felt like it was worthwhile. They came up with a really great plan, by the way. Nero wanted to use herbalism to gather some ingredients to make something interesting. Shannon wanted to use alchemist kits to actually make that thing, both of which I thought was reasonable. They rolled well enough on it. They made a tactical plan. Roland trying to spy out weaknesses in their movements on the camp here, surveyed the camp. Luther working with the bugbears. By the way, they encountered bugbears at the end of last session, and they had decided to leave all of them alive. 4 bugbears alive, one of which has a tenuous relationship with Luther. So they have 4 bugbears sort of working with them, and Luther comes up with a pretty ingenious plan to use the bugbears to get their way into the other thing, because now that Nira and Shannon have made these sleeping capsules, I ruled that they could make 3 sleeping capsules that would affect a 30-foot area. I felt that was pretty generous for this thing that we're making up on the fly, and put them to sleep instantly. And so the plan became use the bugbears to deliver them covertly, which I thought was genius. It was all genius. And had the players not had to leave so soon, it would have, some of the players not had to leave so soon, it would have been a lot more interesting. But Neves bails right before they join their assault on the goblin camp, and Torva stays long enough to start helping. They do get their plan going off without a hitch. The bugbears sneak the capsules up. There's no flaw in it that I can find. Right? It's absolutely awesome. They get the sleeping capsules sleeping gas capsules up to the 3 packs of hobgoblin, 2 goblins, and a bugbear, I think. Pack of those, and deliver the payload using the bugbears as sleeper agents, if I can make a pun. And so now you've got 12 bugbears who are all on the player's side, and a hobgoblin captain and a bugbear sort of squad leader remaining, in a tent. And they decide to keep the bugbear alive. Torva makes a grapple check and drags him out of the tent safely, while Shannon and Luther tag team the hobgoblin captain and bring him down to nothing pretty quickly. And it solves pretty well after that. They get some interesting information. Roland finds a cipher in Goblin. And here's where things went sideways and ticked me off. I was already upset because the players, bailing like that. I don't like when players commit to a session but can only play half of it. I feel like that's disrespectful to everyone's time, including mine. Um, but it was sort of like half, like half nothing that they could have done about it because I was late getting home to get started. So we were like 2 hours late getting started. I was 2 hours late getting home. Um, so between those things, I didn't feel like it was entirely those players' faults. But nevertheless, I was still annoyed. What ticked me off and tipped me over the boiling point was the loot on this encounter was a longsword with a +1 with the light and finesse properties, which fits Nira's character perfectly. You see the problem? Nira is Shannon's real life sister. So Shannon finds the stuff and instantly gives it to Nira without consulting the party. In addition to that, there are winged boots of flying and an energizing potion in the tent as well. Shannon decides to hide them from the rest of the group, put them in the backpack, and not tell anyone about them. Now, Roland comes up with a way to find out about them anyway, but using detect magic, which was pretty smart. And so now the party knows that they're there, but Shannon hasn't given them up. And Shannon has now ticked off me and some of the other players. Because that felt very adversarial to me. It felt very DM versus player. You might recall, that's one thing that I stressed early on is not going to be the case with Fontera. We have happening it with player versus player. Like, not only did I say not DM versus player, it's player versus player. I don't do. Now we have players contending with players in like a player-based conflict. So it made me angry. So it's a good thing that the session was about over because I was about done. And I told them that flat out. I said, I've had enough. I'm not having fun. I'm not enjoying this. I'm calling it a night. Wrapped up, any last business that they had, and called it. And I was so ticked off. I was so angry, so angry. It felt disrespectful to the players. It felt disrespectful to me for Shannon just to take that loot for themselves and hide it from the other. Over the course of the next day or so, cooler heads did prevail. And I knew there had to be a reason for Shannon's actions, and I know that Caitlin isn't an adversarial type player, not usually anyway. So I knew there had to be a reason. So I sent her a message and said, can we talk sometime? But she was understandably trepidatious and nervous, thinking she was in trouble. But I just decided to make sure to get her in voice as quick as I could and explain to her we're not mad, she's not in trouble. I'm not mad anymore. By that point, I do want to get to the bottom of it and make sure that this doesn't happen again. But at this point, I'm more interested in keeping my players and keeping them engaged with the game and maybe re-diverting them from what I don't want them to do into what I want them to do. So we have a good long talk with Caitlin, Brendan, and I. And we stress that this is adversarial from the other players. And while we're doing this, Roland makes a roleplay post that states that Roland is disappointed in Shannon and that Roland doesn't want to adventure with Shannon if Shannon's going to act like this, which it was brilliant, keeping in character conflicts in character. So I did give Roland inspiration for that. Sort of helped illustrate the point we were making that other players don't like it. I found it adversarial, and it just doesn't work for the game. But I understand that there's it's come up before that when Shannon kept the secret about the cockatrice head bounty, Shannon's character is somewhat about keeping secrets, hoarding those secrets for whatever Shannon's reasons are. So we focused on that. How do we draw that into an engaging aspect rather than disengaging one, an adversarial one? Focused on how to draw Shannon into a position roleplay wise where that can come out that those intentions weren't negative, selfish, and how it looks to the players when you loot whore and then give a real life sister the best loot and keep anything from anyone else. Now, Caitlin did say that her intention was never to keep them entirely, but keeping in mind what happened to Xander, and he put on a necklace of geriatricity, it aged him quickly, and eventually could be reversed after time, but the nature of things. So Shannon became sort of cautious, and that's sort of a natural thing. I don't feel too responsible for that. I also don't know how genuine that is, but I cared less about refuting excuses than I did about solving the problem, keeping my players and keeping them all happy. And at the end of the night, we came away with some things that we could do to work together to make things better. And Shannon and Roland role played it out very well and sort of fixed the problems. And Shannon issued an apology, and Nero was aware of the situation and apologized if she got in the way of things or anything. And at the end of the day, it seems like at least we don't have open player versus player conflict. Roland might still be hesitant or prudent about adventuring with Shannon again anytime soon, but they're on the mend. Things are on the up and up. Luther, for his part, is focused on making a society with bugbears, which for us is a pretty good hook into expositing that the territories are shifting out in the outland. More on that later. I missed. Have I missed anything? Nope. All in all, a productive few weeks in Fontera. Now, what I've been DMing, has been different from what Brandon's been DMing. And so, Brandon's been DMing quite a bit for some other folks. Might have to get him to make some videos. But Brandon's been taking care of some other players' sessions. Roland's got a new character named Drawer. Cy and Roland have adventured together. Cy and some other people have adventured together. While I ran another game this last Thursday for my home group back in Texas, he was DMing for Fontera people and has DM'd a couple times. We've got more sessions in the plan. But overall, just getting back into the seat, I did get back into DMing this last week and DM'd another trip to the Genie's Tower, again involving Brandon as a player, but this time with Torva and who else was it? Eric, Torva, was it Roland? I think it was Roland. So Roland, Merrick, and Torva decide to make their way out there, and they find that the path has been cleared by Ligart's previous group of Ligarts and them. So they decide that, and they would know that, so that they make their way there. They have a good roleplay session. They fight some green kobolds, dragonling, and the group of Neves had to leave though. And they, the four of them take this group down without much difficulty, like a green kobold elite, wormling, and then two regular old kobolds, all green. So they have some combats. They fight. Green kobolds scaling the wizard's tower because that's one of the landmarks on the way to the genie's lamp. Scaling the wizard's tower, and one of the green kobolds escapes into the portal at the top, and Merrick does chase them all the way up there and discover that the kobold has run to the portal to escape. And when Merrick peeks in the portal after them, the green kobold has attracted the attention of some of the raptorlings and is now leading them off. So now the kobold has other problems, but it seems pretty clear to the players that the kobold was running from them and maybe not so trying to run into the portal for other reasons, doing something. They're curious about the portal, but they're trepidatious too. People have heard that someone went crazy after maybe going into the Feywild portal. So I'm just waiting for someone to dare to go into the portal, and if they don't, I'm not worried about it. I just like being able to introduce aspects like the raptorlings, and it's fine with me. Now they finally make it to the genie's lamp. They encounter all the same things that the earlier group did. They figure out the central door. They figure out the plug. They didn't notice that it's a fake floor, which Brandon did very good as Merrick, not spilling the beans on that, role playing, to his character knowledge, not just pretty good. They make their wishes. Merrick again surprises me, so I'm finding out that I don't like surprises. Asking for a sentient bow staff to be his companion and an attuned magic item to scale with him like an artifact. So it's basically an artifact, a sidekick, all in one. So a sentient bow staff. And he's already worked out how he wants it to work and stuff, and he's made it pretty balanced. I'm pretty satisfied with it, but just if I had 5 minutes before the game to look at it, or during a break to look at it, I would have been able to go, oh, this is fine, I can see this, and talk with it. But instead it takes up session time, and maybe it wasn't efficient use. But I didn't have a problem with the item itself or the intent there. I liked it a lot, actually, for what he had planned for the character. But it just turns out I don't like surprises. What I'm finding out about myself more and more in Fontera. For their parts, I think Torva wished for plate mail that wouldn't break stealth, so he got plate that actually gives him advantage on armor, and it's black as night. Roland asked for a magical ability. So again, we had to look at things and see how it was. And what Roland wanted to ask for was this ability to teleport around the battlefield whenever someone else is attacked by an enemy. You can teleport to, as long as that enemy isn't already within reach of his weapon, you can teleport to that enemy as a reaction and make a weapon attack, one melee weapon attack, which I thought was fine. It's from this homebrew thing he found, but it was a pretty cool feature and he wanted it, and so it was among things that he decided to do. We talked about, do you want to go with the whole change your whole class and subclass to this as part of the wish? He wants just this feature. Roland ultimately decided he didn't want to disturb the game, disrupt the balance of what I'm trying to build too much. He just wanted this one ability feature for his wish, and that was an easy wish to grant. And we did a bit of flavoring with all these things. Um, you know, the sentient bow staff, which by the way is named Donatello. Sentient bow staff got some flavoring. It was a relic from the ancient lands of the elves in this fallen empire. Now the genie presents it to Merrick, his faithful companion, and a weapon. This magical boon that the elves was once able to do. Now the genie gives Roland the ability to do it, and so there's nice flavoring, and the players liked that, especially Brandon liked the flavoring that when it just made sense. And he sort of could tell that I was making that up on the spot because I didn't have a plan for that. But I wanted something. I wanted Gamor to have something to say when he granted their wish, not have it just be "wish granted, get out of my house," even though he kind of said that. So I'm kind of role playing Gamor like he just got to sleep after the last people left him 2 weeks ago, and now people are showing up again. He just got to sleep, and then now he's being woken up again 5 minutes later, 5 minutes to us, like that to him. Someone asked if Roland asked if there's anything they could do for him, and he said, "Don't mention that I'm here. Maybe talk people into going somewhere else." So they're kind of doing that. So we'll see how that turns out. So it sort of gives me an out if I deem another character unworthy of a wish for some reason, like maybe I don't trust what they'll wish and I don't want to risk it, or maybe it just feel like it wouldn't be conducive to what I want to do for them, whatever it is. I sort of have an out now, as players aren't openly sharing the information where to find the genie or where to be. And he might move. He's already been suggested that he might move by Sir Reginald. He might move his is as a reward for sort of their role playing and their group work and their working together and they're not loot whoring. I did decide to reward them with what they were sort of trying to get out of it, which Roland was trying to gather potion ingredients, and Merrick wanted a bit of gold to contribute to the turn roll fund, among other things. So all of it seemed fine to me. So I decided just to put they used the new D12 system. So Brandon and I have been working on this D12 system as a storytelling mechanic, changing it from random encounters into storytelling even. So basically, we reworked the die. 12 is still the best and 1 is still the worst, but now it's on a variant scale that allows us to be flexible with what we want. For example, it's sort of like a luck it's sort of like a luck die and a counter die all rolled into one. Based on how successful are you at doing what you want to do, story-wise, do you get what you're going for? And if not, what happens as a setback? Or what additional thing do you gain if you do succeed on what you want? So that's what we used this session. It was the first time I had used it, and the players liked it. But we decided that along the thing, you get yeses higher up you roll, you get no's lower you roll. A 12 is a yes and, so not only get what you want, you get something additional to it. In which they rolled a 12 on the way to the genie, so the rolled that they got what they were looking for on an altar as an offering, almost Buddhist or Mexican Day of the Dead style, offering on an altar outside of the genie's lamp entrance to the hill. Herbs and gold and stuff just sort of lead out there. They had rolled yes spot. So I think the yes spot was the kobolds are scaling the wizard's tower. So it was a very interesting, and it worked really, really well for doing what we wanted to do in the session. It didn't get bloated with too many combats because because they're not forced to have a combat if you don't need one. But if you have good rolls and you're sort of rewarding that, I think they rolled like really low, so that meant they got advantage on the next D12. So that's when they rolled a 1 and a 12. So it's sort of advantage to take the higher. So it was the 12. So that's what they, which it was rolled by Roland. We've introduced some new mechanics as to voting for XP. You get bonus XP if you're the low roller, and everyone votes for you as who got the worst luck with their dice. It's sort of a way of compensating, but also narratively speaking, like the people learn from what doesn't go right. You learn from failure. We've initiated, rewards for finding magic items appropriate to your tier, all that kind of stuff. And we've also introduced to the players the idea that there's a tier 1 zone for levels 1 through 5, and once you hit 5, you need to get the hell out of it because you're going to get much reduced rewards. So we've drawn that line, and the Genie's Lamp is actually just outside the tier 1 zone and the tier 2 zone. So they did get most of the experience they do with that from the role playing and stuff. Role playing should just be flat experience between each other. These other things are just flat experience. They actually came up with it pretty, even though some of their adventure was inside safe territory, which we've expanded the safe territory near Trunwell to a little bit further out, about 6 miles out from Trunwell, I think. And we're also establishing that beaten paths reduce the time traveled, so it takes less time to get out there. So we're sort of working in these systems to reduce travel time, to reduce the impediments to players, to adventurers, when they go out adventuring, to try and get something done. So far, Fontera's been going fantastic. New leg with Brandon and the DM seat, co-DMing, working together on things a couple nights a week, making new systems and stuff like that. And we're having a grand old time with it. Things are going great. We're sharing all our stuff. I'm learning how to write stuff down more. He's learning how to improv more. We're learning from each other. Those are each other's strengths. We're learning from each other. It's going fantastically. We've got plenty more sessions planned this week. I've had my bit of a breather so I can get back to things. I had that session go well to get me back into things on the right foot. So things are on the up and up right now. Things are good in Fontera. When things are good, they're good. So we'll have to see how it turns out this next week. And whenever you get another one of these from me, you'll find out about how the next week's adventures have gone. I'll find out with Brandon about how things. But overall, I think Brandon's sessions are going well. It's being pretty seamless. I think the players are buying that we're sharing all the information and that things are the same between the two of us, that they're consistent. Good for me. I like that. And I think all the players in Fontera are sort of getting what they want to get out of Fontera. We're sort of weeding out the chaff, getting rid of folks who aren't having a grand time or aren't conducive to what we're trying to do. We're all getting along in Fontera. Things are going swimmingly. So when you get the next one of these next week from me, I'll tell you how this next week's. And Kinley's going out with Torva, Burdick, Mars, who is in the Cockroaches Adventure, and some other people take on some bronze kobolds. More on that next time in the rest of these adventures. And I see you. Till then, have fun.